Spoiler alert, in the end credits of this game, it says that most of the game was developed on a stock Amiga 500 without even a hard drive. They said they got a hard drive near the end of development, and it supposedly only took them 9 months in their spare time. And I don't think from Moby Games that they ever made another game again. But what you're going to see here is pretty amazing. Lots and lots of tricks and lots of interesting ways of approaching games that is very unique. So that 9 months was very productive and created quite a baby. Let's check it out. The game is known for its speed. So yep, look at this, very quick. And I was going to start with the sprites, but I think the palette changes are even more interesting. So the game is in dual playfield mode. Bit plane 0, 2, and 4 make up the majority of the level, so all the map here. And then everything else is on bit plane 1, 3, and 5. So like the flower and these clouds and the enemies. So just looking at the palette visualizer, you've got the main part of the level in these first 8 colors, including the copper sky here. And you can see this change in the palette right here, which corresponds to the ground. So once you hit the grass here and downwards, you've got this palette right here. And from the bottom of the trees on up, you've got the palette up at the top. And then the second half of the palette over here is for all the objects and enemies. So you've got this purple bird flying. And if you look at the palette, here's his palette just at the top where he is. Then you've got this little cloud here. And there's the palette for it. And then you've got this flower. And here's the palette for the flower from here down. And then there's another cloud here. And there's the palette for it. So before checking this out, I had no idea that this game was on like Lionheart Paramax levels of color changes. And then to show how dynamic it is, if I just walk over here and this sign comes up that says this way, and there it is flashing over top, the new palette for the this way sign. And then if I walk this way and just come down here, check the palette again, it's not there. So if I walk back right now, boom, there it pops up. So this is all controlled by the copper list, which is dynamic and changing. If I jump up, look at all that. And the this way sign with the palette is flashing in and out because, it's flashing on the screen here. So here it is here. And if I just walk a little bit away from it, it's gone. And if I just run through this short level, watch how many times the palette changes. So it's crazy dynamic. And here's me doing the same run with the copper visualizer on. So with the Blitter visualizer on, anything you see being blit is all in the front playfield. So that cloud and that little cloud and these enemies here, the bird up top, this cloud again, and all the way to this flower. So instead of having another map in the front playfield, it's all just blitted objects. So here's a good example of that. This little log ledge that comes in and out is a blit, and again, the big cloud and the little cloud. And look at the copper visualizer for this little log. The colors for it come up with it. So right here, there's the colors for it. So if I pause it, we can see what it says right there. So yeah, here's color 11, color 12, 13, 14, and 15, all the colors of this log. And if we put the palette visualizer on at the same time with the log, you can see the whole palette come right up and then disappear again. And if you pause it again, we showed its 5 colors over here, but then it's also its other 2 colors over here. So color 9 and color 10. So all 7 colors get changed. So how cool is that? I've never seen anything like it before. And then if we start talking about sprites, if I take these bit planes off, everything here is sprites. So sprite 0 and 1 are attached 15 color, 16 pixels across, half of the character, and then some of the 3 color HUD at the top and some at the bottom. And then sprite 2 and 3 finish off the player character and finish off the HUD. And then sprite 4 is one of the gems, sprite 5, another gem, sprite 6, and sprite 7. So every gem in the game is a hardware sprite, and there's lots and lots of gems all throughout. For example, just check out this little section. Every gem is a sprite. So everything you see through the whole game is all locked at 50 frames per second. The visible area is 288 across, which probably is done to account for all 8 sprites. And then it's 256 high, which is very impressive. Here's the DMA stats with the bit planes taking up the most, and then followed by the CPU. So putting the sprite visualizer on, you can see that there's like a sprite multiplexing system going on. sort of like Paramax that I did a few videos ago, but that one was sorted by Y order, so by height. So it'd have Sprite 4 at the top, and then the next one down would be Sprite 5, Sprite 6, etc. But if you pause this here, for example, this is Sprite 5, but then Sprite 4 is below it. So it can't be sorted by Y order. It must be a different system. So I'll let it play here for a second just to see if anyone has any guesses. I hold it over top. So in the second stage Toyland, here's a good example again of the 50 frames per second with all these blits happening. If I put the Blitter visualizer on, all these are being blit. Here's something interesting I found. Remember, the player character is 4 sprites, but the gems up here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I jumped up here, there'd be 4 of me plus 6 of those. There'd be 10 sprites on the scan line, and there's only 8 maximum. So what did they do here? Well, if you put on the Blitter visualizer, you can see 3 of the gems are actually blits. So then there would be a maximum of 7 sprites if you jumped up. So I guess they were just being extra cautious and did 3 instead of 2. Level 3 is Ghostland, and it's interesting. If you put on the palette visualizer here, it has the palette of the ghost flashing and the palette of the this way sign flashing. You can see it also in the copper visualizer. This flashes on and off, and this flashes on and off. So like I say, these coders really knew what they were doing. Here in the icy world, the Sonic influences, which might have been somewhat subtle before, get a little more blatant, like right here. Woo! And check out the palette visualizer when I'm doing this little roll. It's just amazing to me how much things change. So I put it on. Watch this. Look at all that. So it really shows there are ways around the constraints of dual playfield colors. Look at this. I know they were dying to put a loop in here. Maybe they were scared by the Sega's lawyers, because I heard that back in the day, Sega tried to patent the Sonic loop. There really is a lot of cool little things in this game. Check this out. And here it is with the copper visualizer and the palette visualizer going. Very, very impressive stuff. Here's another great example of the palette changes. You've got this enemy, you've got this clock, you've got this cloud, and you've got this enemy. So here's the penguins palette, here's the clock's palette, here's the clouds palette, and here's the teddy bear's palette. And this is an 8-way scrolling game that's very fast and at 50 frames per second, and I don't think anyone would say it's not colorful. There's 64 colors, and don't forget, it's dual playfield. What I love about this last future world is how you can see the copper sky. It's transparent through the levels, so even though there's not parallax, it gives kind of a parallax effect. I wish more games without parallax would do this on interior levels, because it kind of compensates for parallax pretty well, in my opinion. So this part, for example, looks really good to me. I think this game is quite underrated, especially if you put cheats on, because without the strict time limit and the super high difficulty, it's quite fun as just like a platformer. So kudos to the developers. They did an amazing job, especially for their first and only game. They teased a sequel or even a Super Nintendo version of the game in the end credits, but nothing ever came of it that I know of. So I wonder what they went on to do. Maybe one day they'll come back to the Amiga. They were very talented. So hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching. Always appreciate it. Please like and subscribe and comment if you haven't, and put the notification bell on if you'd like to know when the new videos come out right away. So thanks again. Take care.